It's time now for today's strategy session. Trading officially underway for 2025. So what are some stocks to buy and sell going into the new year? Joining us now with some more insight on investor positioning in the new year, we've got JJ Kinahan, IG North America's CEO. JJ, thanks so much for making time with us this morning. I want to talk about one name in particular to tick off our conversation here, and that is Cisco. Talk to me about your bull case for this name.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Maddie. And so, this is one that I think is really interesting. We hear so much about AI, as you just got speaking about. And what I think people sometimes forget is you really need the networkers also. And so with that, Cisco is really well positioned. We've seen our clients on our Tastytrade brokerage side really start to, over the last 3 weeks, particularly buy this stock. You see the two other stocks along with it that they have been buying significantly. Microsoft, actually not a big surprise. And the fact that it's a darling of retail, usually one of the top 3 names bought. What's the reason I talk about it, though, is perhaps being a bit unusual, is the amount of buying. Usually, retail tends to be a little bit more of a buyer than a seller, like 52-48. They do trade back and forth more than people think. But more than 75% of the activity we've seen in Microsoft over the last 3 weeks has been on the bullish side. That's a very bullish sign and very unusual. And then, of course, the last one on there being Reddit. And what we've seen there is not only our clients loving it, I think there was a doubt on some people if it could compete in the social media context. They've done an incredible job overall of continuing to add users. And at the same time, you're seeing so many analysts put targets above 200 on this stock. So those 3 have really been incredibly interesting to me. Where you started with Cisco, this is one that, as we know, well-run company worldwide. As AI continues to expand, it's going to be really interesting to see how much they can continue to expand along with that. And again, I think the networking side of it is the most underrated side of what's going on in AI.
Just 2 follow-up questions on that, JJ, because
sure,
as I'm looking at Microsoft and Reddit specifically on those, how much of the way forward from Microsoft also depends upon what allocation of that $10 billion investment into OpenAI is actually towards now what's going to be a split business. There's going to be a for-profit side and a not-for-profit side that continues to operate. And then just a sub-question, since you mentioned Reddit as well, it seems like even more so than it being a social media platform, the prevailing thought is that this could also be a major AI play as some of that data gets analyzed and aggregated, and then and the analyzation of that fed into other generative AI systems.
Yeah, I'll start with the second one first, Brad, because I think that's a great point overall. And it is something that people have continued to talk about. And I think one of the other things that has been incredible about Reddit is, because they have so much information, will this be a site that eventually, there's so much activity in there in terms of people talking about what's going on in the markets, as well as some of the social media aspect of it, that the AI use for the markets is going to continue to be incredible, as well as in other areas, obviously, besides the market. But that's one that I think is particularly exciting for many people. And then, as you said, with Microsoft, this is, sometimes your question is a great one in terms of a bifurcated business. But I think that sometimes we forget how big they are. And what I mean by that is they have so many other businesses going that we've seen this now over 20, 25 years, we tend to focus on one side. And if that slows down, say, oh my God, that's terrible. But they do so well on others. So I'm not quite as worried about that. I think one of the more exciting things they've done is in terms of Activision. And, that is something that we'll see how they actually monetize that. I think it's one of the most underrated things they've done over the last few years in terms of, the gaming industry. And as you say, we don't know where AI is going to take us as far as gaming necessarily. I mean, we've seen some great strides there, but what will continue there is what's going to be really interesting to me.
I want to end on a sour note, JJ. You've also got some bearish picks for us heading into 2025. Walk us through your reasons.
And so the one that's the most interesting to me, Maddie, is actually Dell. Now, Dell's not a stock that I talk very much about. I don't think you guys talk a ton about it here on the show either. And it, tends to be one of those stocks that goes along, if you will. Well, what we've seen with Dell is our clients over the last few weeks have turned very bearish on this stock. And why I find that interesting in terms of just seeing what's going on there, talking to people for the reasons they're selling it, et cetera. This is one that's being played as a derivative play on perhaps tariffs in China. Really surprising to me because, as I said, this is not a stock that I think was discussed much by people in general. So I want to keep a close eye on this and keep a close eye on what's going to happen to tariffs in China if they will come through to the level we think overall. In terms of the other two that we have there, Delta Airlines just their 52-week high. As soon as they hit their 52-week high, we saw sellers coming in. The stock has gone down since then. But what's interesting to me is the selling hasn't continued. The selling has continued. I apologize. People have not taken profits on it, et cetera, back down at these levels. Some people probably took profits, obviously, at a 52-week high. But we have continued to see selling there. And then Pfizer. Pfizer has had a decent rally, nothing spectacular, but a decent rally, I'll call it, since mid-December. And our clients have used that as a very, very prevalent time to sell the stock. As I said, you're usually about 52.48 for most stocks in terms of buys or sells. And we have just seen buying for Pfizer more of like a 30% level, which I think is really, really interesting overall.
JJ Kinahan, thanks so much for taking the time here with us just after the opening.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year to you.